From the Honourable Leader of the Third Party.
Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago during estimates, I asked the Minister of Education and Early Learning about a gentleman called Tony Grazie from the United States. The Minister was unfamiliar with his name. Mr. Grazie made a trip to PEI in 2016 when he met with the then Minister of Education, the then Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, and had a meal with the Premier. On all three stops, the response to Mr. Grazie's proposal to establish a universal free school lunch program across Prince Edward Island was met with enthusiasm. It's been almost 2 years since that visit, Mr. Speaker, and despite some very modest pilot projects, we are a long way from the shared vision of the PEI Home and School Federation, at least some government members, and Mr. Grazie himself. A question to the Minister of Education, Early Learning and Culture. Since our chat during estimates, have you familiarised yourself with the work and vision of Mr. Grazie?
The Honourable Minister of Education, Early Learning and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, yes, I have a general awareness of Mr. Grazie and who he is. And Mr. Speaker, I don't think anybody had ever said that we were going to be adopting any plan that Mr. Grazie had. But what I will say, Mr. Speaker, is that what we have done is double, Mr. Speaker, the budget for the school food programs. Mr. Speaker, in the last year, and reaffirmed again, Mr. Speaker, for this year, we have hired on, with the great help from the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, an individual to work at the Public Schools branch to help to develop a program of which the Home and School has indicated on numerous occasions, not least of which at their last AGM, they were very proud, Mr. Speaker. So we are proud, Mr. Speaker, to help and do our part to continue this work. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Third Party, your first supplementary.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Grazie has been involved in establishing programs in places with virtually none of the inherent ingredients necessary to make the program a success. Yet, he has managed to make it work there successfully. He described Prince Edward Island as the first place he had ever been where all of the necessary components for such a program are right here already at our fingertips. Minister, what is holding up the rolling out of such a program?
Honourable Minister of Education, Early Learning and Culture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as I indicated during estimates, this is an initiative that you cannot just turn a switch on and you're off and going, Mr. Speaker. And what I will say further to that, and I think I did indicate it at that point in time, is it's a community initiative at its heart. And as the Honourable Member indicated, we do have the resources here on Prince Edward Island to pull off a great school food program, Mr. Speaker. But to do that, you need to engage the community. And that's what we're setting out to do. That's what Morgan Palmer does every day in her work with the Public Schools branch, Mr. Speaker. And we hope that that will continue and build into something great. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Third Party, your second supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With over 20% of children on Prince Edward Island living in food-insecure households, and nutrition being a critical component of health, of well-being, and of intellectual functioning, and the fact that these initiatives offer substantial economic benefits to local producers, why is such a program not a top priority for this government?
Honourable Minister of Education, Early Learning and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'll indicate again, as I have in numerous occasions in here, that I think we are doing great work with our school food programs right now, Mr. Speaker, through the communities that are there to deliver them. And as I indicated here previously, Mr. Speaker, 40,000 is the number of meals and snacks that we deliver to island students every week, Mr. Speaker. And when I say we, it's not us, it's not the department, it's the communities that pull these together, Mr. Speaker. And I could point to a couple great programs in my own district. And that, Mr. Speaker, is what really makes these work, is that we have community involvement, the community comes together, it takes advantage of the resources that it has inherent in it, and it builds a great program that helps do much more than just feed the children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.